Okay, week 3 of college football is here. So many good games to choose from, but one of the games of the week, I feel like it's got to be up there if you're ranking the games of the week. That Miami Texas A&M game may be number 1, but because of the rivalry implications, Oklahoma, Nebraska meet this weekend. I'm joined today by Jay from Unfair Sports as we preview, give our predictions of this game. Before we do, as always, I need y'all to hop down to the comments, give me an O for Oklahoma, N for Nebraska, letting me know who you think comes out of this game victorious. If you enjoyed the content, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. It means the world to us. Jay, before we hop into all of this, where can the people find you?
Yeah, you can find me Unfair Sports on YouTube. Just search the name, you'll find me. You'll see my picture all over the place, as well as for my podcast at Unfair Sports, wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. Thanks, Todd, for having me again, man. I'm pretty excited to talk about this game. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, this is always a fun game because of the historic implications, right? I
Agreed.
always talk on my channel, especially in recruiting, right? That one of my favorite things in all of recruiting is when two rival institutions are battling it out for the same prospect. One of my absolute favorite things. And even though that's not what we're getting here, we are still seeing two programs in two totally different positions in their journeys within college football. Oklahoma ascending, even though they had all the chaos happen this offseason because of fantastic coaching hires. And Nebraska is now in flux. The head coaching direction is a question. Scott Frost is no longer there. And a team and a program that a lot of people were excited to see, including myself this year, because of all of the one score losses they had last year. If only things had gone a little bit different, maybe they win 4 games last year. Maybe they win 5 games last year, 6, who knows? But what we do know for certain is that is not the Nebraska we got this year. So, Jay, whenever you're looking at this as a top down approach, what's the one thing that probably most concerns you about the Nebraska Cornhuskers as it relates to this matchup with Oklahoma?
I think the thing that jumps out the most to me is the interim coach, Mickey Joseph. And the one thing that traditionally players do for that interim coach, especially one that they actually like, they're going to play really hard for him, no matter what. They're going to run through a wall for that man. They're going to do just about anything that he wants them to do. And they're going to leave it all on the field. So to me, that's the thing that makes this game a lot more nervous for me as an OU fan. It's what makes it feels like a kind of a trap game in general because they want this. They want to prove that they're not Scott Frost. They want to prove that they are much better than what they've been over the last couple of years. And then having Mickey Joseph, who is from Nebraska, play quarterback there in the late 80s, early 90s, someone who is a Nebraska man. They want to show that he deserves the opportunity to be the head coach. He's the guy that could potentially bring them into the new era of Nebraska football and hopefully get them back to what they used to be back in the 80s and 90s, winning national championships or at least competing for them. They want to take over that division in the Big Ten. And the only way they're going to do that is with hard work, dedication, and honestly, good coaching. And so to me, that's what I see out of these prospects. They're going to want these players, they're going to want to show that this coach has a chance to do that.
Yeah, and like I said in the intro, this is a Nebraska team that had how many one score losses last year? I mean, just so many to count. They start off this year against Northwestern with another close loss. So they've been able to be in games. The problem has been winning the games that have been close under Scott Frost. He's no longer there. Now, what's interesting to me is the line actually moved a little bit in favor of Nebraska. Not saying that the line had Nebraska winning this game. The
Mm-hmm.
line still has Nebraska as an underdog in this game, but they actually gained a bit of momentum not having Scott Frost as the head coach, which shows you Vegas at least seemingly thinks that maybe a few of those losses came down to a decision here or there in the game that they don't expect to be made anymore. When I look at this, if I'm looking at this from Oklahoma's perspective, I want to hear from you, fair or unfair. The one area, if I'm Nebraska, that I'm going to try and test Oklahoma, that I'm really going to try and see what I can't get done, is making your offensive line a little bit uncomfortable. The defensive front for Nebraska was a real strong portion of that team last year, something we just haven't seen come to fruition up to this point this year. But they still have some guys that can get after the quarterback. They showed that last year, even though they haven't showed it this year. O'Shawn Mathis moving from TCU over to Nebraska, huge get for the Huskers. But Is that an area you're looking at? And what are you thinking Oklahoma is going to do to try and mitigate some of the offensive line woes they've experienced? Early in the season, OU will get it figured out.
Mhm.
But right now, if we did have to be critical of any area on Oklahoma, it would have to be the offensive line because I just don't know where else you're going to point to. Everybody else is playing pretty darn well, in my opinion.
No, yeah, and to your question, is it fair or unfair to say that Nebraska's going to really focus and key in on the OU offensive line? That's 100% true. And looking at it this way, so Wanye Morris was out the first 2 games of the season because of some off the field situations, and that kept him out of the games. And so there was a kind of a shuffle at the offensive line. I think McKay Matauer had a little bit of an injury situation, so he was in and out of the lineup. Anton Harrison was moved from left to right. Tyler Guyton was moved from right to left. So it was basically shuffling things at the offensive line to try to figure out what would work. Morris is back. He'll play in this game. And I
Very
think
true.
that that's going to add the stability that Oklahoma's been looking for. He'll be on the right. He will be Dylan Gabriel's blind side, which is more the most critical position. Traditionally left tackle is, but Dylan's a lefty, so it's going to be the right side. With him out there, I think that stabilizes what the offensive line is going to be able to do and actually be better prepared. But if Nebraska's smart, like you said, they need to go directly after that offensive line. That's their attack point. If they can make that offensive line uncomfortable, they have a really good chance of competing in this game. That's their focus. And so for me, for Oklahoma, it is they've got to have solid line play. That offensive line has got to do their thing. The defensive line, I'm not concerned about. They're going to put a ton of pressure on Casey Thompson. Not only do we know
Yes.
Casey very well from last year,
Yes.
we've seen what he's done this year, and we've seen how bad that Nebraska offensive line has been as well.
And that
So
Oklahoma defensive line has been ferocious.
ferocious. Reggie Grimes has 4 sacks
Four and
already
a
in the first
half.
4.5. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, 4.5. I always forget about that half that he got in the first 2 games. Stutzman, oh God,
He's playing at a very high level, which is why I had to pick the offensive line because when I'm looking at the matchups, Jay, I like y'all at wide receiver over the Nebraska secondary, right? And when I'm looking at the Nebraska linebackers, I'm curious just to see what they're going to do. If there was any one area where someone was pressing me right now, if you're Nebraska, where's the one area you feel like you need to attack to get any sort of success in this
Mhm.
game? I'm attacking your front. I want to nullify the rush attack. I want to put it all in Dylan Gabriel's hands. And I get what you're saying. Is that a good decision? Maybe not, but I've got to eliminate something that Oklahoma does well because I can't let Oklahoma do everything well. I have to pick my poison. And the offensive line has been the only area for OU right now that you can really point to and be like,
Mhm.
that needs to improve. Everything else, we can talk about Dylan Gabriel maybe needing to hit the deep shot at a higher rate. I am not
Yes.
worried about that at all. I think that's just a rep thing. One thing I've talked about, you can prep for the deep ball in practice until you get an opponent out there that you don't see every day. You can't prep for what those game deep balls are like. That's an experience thing. We saw it last year with Bryce Young and Jamison Williams, but when it came on, they were unstoppable. I have the same feeling it's going to happen for Dylan Gabriel. So that's why I'm so focused on this offensive line in
Mhm.
particular for Oklahoma. But that is a great point about Wanye Morris coming back. Someone that the Oklahoma faithful have been really excited about to this point. Talk to me about Wanye Morris because there's been a lot of anticipation and excitement around this young man, and now we're getting the opportunity to see it all come together.
Now I remember Wanye Morris from his time at Tennessee, and he was a highly rated guy. He's really good at his job, and truth be told, he's kind of an anchor on this offensive line. He is a leader. He's someone that the players look up to, and he's been one that has been productive. He was productive last season, and with the unfortunateness of the first 2 games, we expected him to be even more productive. We expected him to lead, be a big time leader in this offensive line for this season, and a critical component. We kind of saw it. You kind of saw some stagnantness of the offensive line going in the first 2 games, and honestly, it kind of points directly to him. He's someone that we were expecting to be right there on the right side. So it's not easy moving from one side of the field to the next. You can ask any offensive lineman; they'll tell you that it's not as easy as it looks. You would think,
Oh,
oh, just play
absolutely.
left and play right, you'll be just fine. No, it's not. And the guard position, I mean, not to throw shade on offensive linemen, but if you ask any offensive lineman, they'll tell you don't traditionally go from guard to tackle. That's not very common out there. Usually when you're guard, that's it. You're kind of there. You're not moving to the defensive side. You're not moving to anywhere. You're a guard, and that is it. And it's not. I don't know how to say this properly.
No, it's
It's
just
just
a style, right? Like
yeah.
your guards, you need them to do certain things that you may not need out of your tackle. You need that tackle to have that bend, that real big punch. Not saying you don't need it out the guard, but there are things that you can get away with at the guard position that you look, right? A shorter offensive lineman traditionally is
Mhm.
usually on the interior as
Yep.
opposed to your guys with your long reach, their exterior guys. Not to say one's better than the other, it's just stylistic differences.
Right, and they're the ones that are chasing. You know, your tackles are the ones that are chasing those edge rushers that can go around them because nowadays they're faster, they're swifter, they break through with their swim moves a lot better. So you got to have somebody with a lot of agility and strength, like you said, long arms, big hands, being able to grab and push somebody out the way. So we first talked about the OU preview a few weeks back was the run game. Like Eric Gray's kind of making me eat a lot of crow because he's really been our best running back. He's been really doing it, but Marcus Major's been going out there being the thunder to his lightning just about every game for these first two games, but it doesn't seem like it's really just consistent. And so now the question is going to be in this game: is it the line or is it the backs? We'll find out if the line shows up and does their thing. The backs should be able to produce, and we should be able to get almost 200 yards in this game. We have some of the best backs in the country. Whenever they've got some good blocking as well as some good play call. So I've always been concerned about the run game because I just don't know. Nothing about it looks just stable or consistent. But I think that they will get to that point in this game. This will be the game where the playbook opens up. This is when we'll go past page 1.5. We'll move into 2 and 3, hopefully.
And what a better time to do it, because look, there's this double-edged sword. You don't want to give all of your playbook away, but at the same time, you need to get deep enough into your playbook that when you do get tested legitimately for the first time, you've been there before, right? Like you've been to that stage of your playbook before. The last thing you want is to get legitimately tested and you're like, "Oh, we don't know what we look like when we're here because we've been on
Mhm.
page 1 of our playbook. We need to be on page 8 now. We don't know what page 8 looks like." This is a great opportunity to start unraveling some of that. And that's why whenever I was on with JP and Trav last night, awesome time anytime I'm on there. If y'all don't watch that, Wednesday evenings, 9 o'clock, they go live, the Indy Sooner channel on YouTube. Awesome time. A must watch if you're an Oklahoma fan. But one of the things I was talking about is I was impressed that Oklahoma tried something against Kent State. Kent State had a bit of an answer for it. And Oklahoma went to the drawing board and said, okay, next. And then they hit the ground running and never looked back. That to
Mhm.
me said something, right? We can talk about, oh, well, there was a little time where they weren't getting it going against Kent State. Sure, Kent State, I mean, even we talked about it. I don't think Kent State is a world beater. They're not a bad
Mhm.
football team, they're a solid football team.
Mhm.
But I loved the adjustments. That shows me something. Can you adjust on the fly? Check. I get it. It's against Kent State, but an adjustment was shown. When I'm
I had
looking at this, and then we've spent 10 minutes talking about the offensive line as if
a
that's some problematic thing. Make no mistake, Oklahoma fans, the offensive line is not in a state where you need to be concerned. It's just right now your defensive line is playing as well as they can. We really haven't seen your secondary get tested, right, in a manner that lets me know where they are. But anytime they have gotten tested, they've answered the call.
Mhm.
Your wide receivers are playing at an elite level. Your running backs are playing at a great level. I have no concern with Dylan Gabriel considering what his percentage is for completion percentage. He's not turning the ball over. He's not making bad decisions and he's running the offense. So we have to point somewhere, right? Like if
Right.
we're to create this. So now I want to flip it. I'm going to talk about where I think Oklahoma just has a supreme advantage, and it's on the outside. Oklahoma has got Marvin Mims, they've got Theo Weiss, they've got Jaleel Farouk. Then you have the tight end room that really has been impressive this year. I think that's where we're going to start seeing things really come together for Oklahoma this week. The running game is going to be there, right? Now, we talked about Nebraska's got to try and take something away. I think they're better suited to attempt to take away Oklahoma's run than they are suited to take Oklahoma's pass away, but that remains to be seen. What are you feeling like is the most advantageous matchup for Oklahoma in this game?
I'm gonna say those wide receivers. I mean, Marvin Mims is trying to prove that he is an elite in college football. He's
He
trying
is.
to prove that he needs to be considered as one of the top receivers drafted in the NFL draft. Because right now, the entire national discourse is all about Ohio State's three-headed monsters of receivers. All those receivers they have there. Rightfully so. The numbers that Marvin Harris Jr. is putting up, oh my God. Who can argue against that?
Yeah, no
Who can
doubt. No doubt.
who can argue against the numbers they're putting up? Marvin Mims want a piece of that. He want a piece of that conversation. And he's showing that he can get there. The beauty of it is that Dylan Gabriel, I just did a video about him and his Heisman odds, and everybody's saying, oh, it's too early to talk about that. This is probably not the moment to. No, he's number 7 in the odds right now. He's tied with Will Anderson. Now, your boy Will is a monster on the defensive side, but it's really hard for defenders to win the Heisman.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's just disrespect in general, especially the defensive line. But with that being said, Dylan Gabriel still got some pretty solid odds on all the Vegas books. And that's the one thing about Vegas is they don't have an alliance with anyone. Their alliance is money. And so if they've got you in odds like that, that means that they believe you probably have a chance if you keep producing. And so
Vegas isn't interested in losing money.
Exactly. So when he starts moving up, I was like, yeah, we don't want y'all betting on this anymore. We want you to bet somewhere else. And so we'll take your money today, but we don't want to take your money later if we move up the odds. But my point behind that is that Dylan Gabriel is now focused. He's gonna have to be focused on hitting those numbers. He's gonna have to put up some 300+ yard games in order to keep himself considered in all the awards watches that he's in. Marvin Mims is a key component of that. Jalil Farouk needs to get more involved. We need to see more of him and Theo Weiss. But I believe that it's going to be the Mims show this year. I think that Farouk is going to slowly be integrated more. And just like you said, that tight end room, Braden Willis is, I put it like this. In this game against Nebraska, I think Willis is going to be the most targeted player in the game. And the reason why I say that is because recruit Malachi Coleman is going to be there at that game on a Nebraska visit. So if you have him there watching Nebraska and you're in the running for him too, let him know that, hey, we go to tight ends here. Come on
No,
down.
absolutely. And it's a
produce
mismatch.
some elite tight ends in the NFL. Come on down. We'll get you taken care of as well. So it's smart to quote unquote attack at the recruits you want to get, especially the ones that Nebraska's going to have in town, while at the same time leveraging your strengths, the tight ends, the wide receivers, all those catchers. I believe that is something that Oklahoma can definitely use to dominate this game. That if they blow the top off of it, it's because they heavily got them involved.
Yeah. And look, I love that because first and foremost, tight ends are one of the biggest mismatches in all of college football right now. You want to see what the modern offenses are running, and I mean the top 10 offenses in the nation. I would bet money. I actually don't know. I'd be very interested in diving in and seeing what the statistics would say at how often they target running backs out the backfield and tight ends. Because those are two components I've noticed in these high power modern offense. They are killing teams, putting tight ends on linebackers and putting their running backs on linebackers and letting them eat in open space because those dudes just flat out can't cover you. That's what I think we're going to see from Oklahoma. Offensively, look, Nebraska's defense has been a bit of a letdown this season. I don't think there's any way to put it. That was a defense that really stood up last year. They lost some pieces, some veteran pieces, but they got in a lot in the transfer portal. I think a lot of people, including myself, thought that, yes, that defense would have growing pains, but they'd look better than they've looked up to this point. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about before we switch over to Oklahoma's defense is something I brought up in the live stream, something you alluded to, because I'm a bit of a nerd, right? I always think back to some of the books I've read, and one of them being The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And he talks about how you always leave your opponent out. The most dangerous opponent is one that's backed into a corner because the only way they have to go is through you. There is nowhere else for them to go. That's where Nebraska is right now, right? Like they only have one way to go. That's through Oklahoma. Do I believe they can do it? No, I'm going to be very honest, right? I wish I could say right now, Jay, I actually, it would make me happier to say like, oh, I think this game is going to be a 1 touchdown to 3-point game. Like I think it's going to be two great teams meeting each other. I think Oklahoma is a great team. I don't see the same out of Nebraska right now. But if you're asking me, How is Nebraska's offense going to be slowed down by this Oklahoma defense? Jay, one thing we talked about before this season is Pat Narduzzi. When Whipple left Pitt, there was a complaint laid at Whipple's feet from Pat Narduzzi saying this is a man who will abandon the run in favor of the pass. If I'm Oklahoma and my defensive front is playing as well as y'all's defensive front is playing, I'm saying, okay, I'm going to put it all on them. I'm going to take away the run. I'm going to make sure you can't run. I'm going to make sure I'm taking away anything you can do because y'all have a familiarity with Casey Thompson. I think your edges have to like their ability to get to the quarterback to make it to where they can't get much going deep, or at least in theory. And I love the ability Oklahoma has to take away the run. What are you looking at as the keys to victory for Oklahoma's defense against this Nebraska offense?
I'd say the key thing is to keeping Casey Thompson uncomfortable. Like you
Yeah.
mentioned, Oklahoma knows who he is. Anthony Grant's probably going to try to run for a whole bunch of yards. They're going to try to get him involved early because he's a key component of their offense. But keeping Casey uncomfortable will probably be the thing that leads to success. Like we talked about before, Nebraska's offensive line just isn't all that great. Like overall, they're just not playing good football whatsoever. The question has been, is it coaching or is it talent? I don't know. And like you said, they've got a lot of transfers in there. And so they've got a lot of people playing with each other for the first time, getting to know each other, just like Oklahoma. But the coaching wasn't there. I mean, they were bragging about how many players were throwing up after practice. I mean, they had like 22 pukes. Like,
Odd.
bro, does that matter when you're getting housed
Yeah, Jay,
in games
remind
you
me.
should
I can't
win?
remember the last time Dabo, Nick Saban, and Kirby. Remind me the last time they did it. It slips my memory.
Oh man, that's a good question because I think it's like never. They know what conversations are critical and important to talk about their players. And for Frost at the time, he's talking about his offensive line puking. And so I guess they may be just super fatigued. He may have overworked them, didn't know that that was possible, but I'm neither here nor there. I think it's the containment of Casey and making, because at a certain point, this is the thing I liked about Casey and I also hate about him, is that he goes out there, he plays hard, he'll put up some numbers, and then he just falls apart as the game goes on. It's like the decisions really just aren't there that should be. Like he makes a lot of poor choices late in the game. And so that's the one thing that I hope the OU defense capitalizes on more. Turnovers. We've got to force more turnovers in this game. This is kind of the thing I kind of enjoyed about Alex Grinch. He would tell the players, you need to get your hands on the ball, get some turnovers, take the ball away. We've got to get a lot of those to keep Casey Thompson uncomfortable, and the game will be just fine. If they can go out and hit that 21-0 score range like they did against UTEP, Nebraska may not even score the rest of the game because they'll be on so much edge of trying to hurry up and catch up with the offense. That's going to hurt them. It's going to lead to bad decisions. So the faster the OU defense gets Casey and Anthony Grant off the field to where the offense can try to go out there and score, the better. That
And
will mess up everything for them.
it's exactly your reasoning right there why I brought up. If I'm Oklahoma, I'm looking at that defensive front and I'm trying to take away Nebraska's run because Casey Thompson, look, a lot of the times it's the tale of two quarterbacks, right? Like you have your moments where Casey Thompson has sequences in a game and you're thinking, my oh my, that guy right there, when he gets it going, he is coming for your defense and he's going to pick you apart. And then there's some head scratching plays, all within 10 minutes of each other, right? So the reason why for me, I'm sitting there like, okay, well, Anthony Grant, he comes in, he was the number one junior college running back in the nation, right? Like that's a
Mm-hmm.
dude. And he's
Mm-hmm.
shown so far, like he's getting it going with Nebraska. He's been able to find some success. I want to limit what he does because I want to put Nebraska in third and long. I don't want you in third and four. I want you in third and long to where I'm making you make the tough decisions. That way I can get these turnovers. I can break on the ball. Everything is in front of me as opposed to everything being in front of you. And the beautiful thing for the Sooners, they have the defense to do just that this year, right? Like that defense is playing at such a high level. And that's why it's going to be so interesting to watch. Now, kind of unrelated to this game, what's been the most impressive part for you for Oklahoma thus far this season?
Honestly, the most impressive part has been the defense.
Yeah.
They've what's the 7 points, 8 points? They've given up an average of 8 points per game in the first 2 games against offenses that actually like to sling it and like to go fast. I mean, Kent State was a top 5 offense in the country as far as yards and pace. They like to go out there and throw. Now, new quarterback, but the system is still the same. They recruited this quarterback to do the same thing they've done in the past, and so being able to slow those teams down, hold them to under 300 yards when you are also have a very high octane, very fast paced offense, that's huge to me. The defense has been able to rise to the occasion. It's situations where the offense gets out there and scores really, really fast, and they're able to stop the opposing offenses from picking up any type of momentum. I've talked about this a few times on my show and to some fans or whatnot in the comments. And one of the biggest struggles that our defense is going to see throughout this entire season is that we're going to have a situation where we're going to score really fast, as in 1.5 minute possession, 1 minute possession, 58 second possession. They're going to be so fast that the defense isn't going to have time to rest unless they can get the offense off really fast. And we saw that against UTEP. That's the only reason why UTEP got those 2 scores. OU goes and scores 21 points within the first 8 minutes of the game. You heard me right. 21 points in the first 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Like literally every possession was less than 2 minutes for OU. And UTEP was able to haul off an 8-minute possession and a 9-minute possession. Why? Defense got tired, especially with 120-degree weather outside. What else are you supposed to do? There's nothing you can really do about that. I mean, every team gets exhausted. I mean, every team does.
Every team.
Every team. You're going to get tired if you don't rotate enough. And that was one of the first games of the season. Ted Roof mentioned it in the press conference. He wanted to rotate more guys, and he said in the future he will. So because of that, they have to be prepared for those moments when we're up 28-0. Get the defense right back out there. We've scored within 3 plays. Once again, we drove the field 95 yards in 1 minute and 35 seconds. Get the defense back out there. You think that's a time to rest, and it isn't. And so that's going to be a struggle the defense is going to see. So I've been impressed with them stepping up in those circumstances. Even though that field goal and that touchdown was given up to UTEP, the rest of the game, they locked it down. Same thing with Kent State. They gave up 3 points to a high-octane offense and a quarterback that loves to scramble. They helped them to 3 points the entire game. And that's not something we've done since 2017. And that was against Kansas. And of course, Kansas was awful back at that time. Sorry, Texas fans. But that was the last time it was done. Like, this was a early 2000s OU defense, and I'm loving it. I think that's the thing that's jumped out the most to me is just holistically, the defense is playing physical, stout, and they're trying to show that this is not the defense of most recent years.
Oh, no doubt. There's no doubt that this isn't the same defense, right? Like if people haven't watched the first 2 games, and I've said this a lot, I said this in my video today. I'm going to repeat it because it needs said. I don't care whether you do go play Kent State or whether you go take on Georgia. There's some takeaway from every single football game that's played. There's a lesson to be learned there. It's all about whether or not you're willing to go find the lesson. And yes, in some games, there are much larger lessons than in other games. And surely for Oklahoma, given the nature of this opponent, given that it's in Lincoln, given that this is a team that knows, right? For Nebraska, Nebraska's in a situation where they have an understanding that this is one of their Super Bowls. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be the last major team Nebraska plays, but what a better opportunity for them to come out and have a big game against an Oklahoma because they know people are going to be watching. This is Oklahoma's a team like Alabama's a team that like Ohio State and Georgia are teams. When you play them, that's a lot of teams Super Bowl playing those institutions. You're going to get their best shot and some. That's just the nature of what it is for Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State. That's just the reality of these programs. So you can expect more of the same, but a lesson is always there to be learned. What we've learned from Oklahoma's defense, the defensive line has got dudes. I don't even need to talk about the linebacker position, right? Stutzman is coming into his own right in front of our very eyes. And the most intriguing thing about Stutzman, he started this year really good and then got better game 2, right? Like, no, I'm not joking. Go rewatch the game, watch him make decisions game 2 that he's making them quicker than he was making them game 1 because he's getting acclimated to this position. He's going to be a fun player to watch. And for Oklahoma fans, you already know, you guys got a guy in the secondary I love, and that's Billy Bowman, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite players in the nation. Love his game. So you have dudes at all three levels. It's been a little bit since we could look at Oklahoma and I could point at all three levels of the defense and say, no, you got dudes here, you got some dudes there, you got some dudes there. All three levels of the Oklahoma defense have that there. And not only that, because people are going to come on here and say, well, Ty, we can say that. The problem was coaching. I'm not going to push back a whole lot against that, given some of the players Oklahoma has had. Fair point. But now you do have the coaching to be able to unlock it. And my question would be, if you didn't have the coaching, what good is having the dudes if you don't have the guys that know how to use them? Now you have the dudes and you have the coaches that know how to use them. Whenever I look at this, Jay, as we kind of close down here, I did want to get your score prediction, your kind of what you think is going to happen in this game.
I've mulled back and forth. The spread right now is 11. Oklahoma is a favorite on the road. Over unders and around the 66 range. So they're expecting to be a lot of points scored in this game. So me, I do this is the game where Oklahoma opens the playbook. My just mentioned this on one of my videos, my reaction video, and you talked about this before. Why go past page 1 of your playbook if you can win the game with page 1 of your playbook?
Absolutely.
It's logical. They have Kansas State coming up next week.
Which and that's going to be a game.
Everyone's loving. There's a lot of people that have actually picked Kansas State to win the Big 12 this year because of the tenure they have and Deuce Vaughn. So, and then Skylar Thompson coming from Nebraska.
Adrian Martinez.
And Adrian is a step up from Skylar. So because of that, the bigger thing for Oklahoma is focusing on Nebraska and not looking forward. So when I looked at this game, I asked myself, what does Oklahoma need to do to prepare for the rest of the season? So since they were able to win the first 2 games, really page 1, they're going to have to go about to page 3. Got to get creative, start practicing on those massive big plays. I expect at least 2 or 3 big throws to Marvin Mims, just like they did against Kent State, early against UTEP, and then of course Kent State. I'm thinking Dillon Gabriel goes for over 350 in this game. I think he gets about 4 touchdowns. And I think that this game finishes at about 42 to about 17. This isn't going to be as close as last year. I think this is going to end up being a blowout. And I think Oklahoma's goal is to prevent Nebraska from scoring even 10 points. But we'll see if the defense is fit enough to handle the speed the offense will potentially score at. So I'm going to say 42-17. I think Dillon Gabriel goes for 350. Probably 4 touchdowns, and then the run game is established, especially late in the game.
So we're fairly similar, right? In the thought that the line is at 11. You said right now,
11 right now.
So personally, I have Oklahoma by more than 11. I said it on the live stream last night, and I'm going to maintain that same number I said last night because I believe it. I like Oklahoma by 17. Right. And a lot of people were saying, oh, well, we think the score will be 24 points Nebraska to 42 points for Oklahoma. And I'm sitting here, I don't know where I have Nebraska even getting 24 points from. Right. Like and that kills me to say, because I think some of the viewers, you'll know my content. You'll know I was very excited for Nebraska this year. I was really high on them. I was very excited. And so far, I've had an all-you-can-eat buffet of crow every single week. I just don't know where I see Nebraska getting the points for to be able to even make this a shootout. Maybe they've got something up their sleeve. They certainly could. But because of that, I fall more in line with you. I like Oklahoma by 17.
I think, though, that this will be the game where they would actually put their foot on the gas. Like in all the first 2 games, they really didn't. They really didn't just hammer the gas and go. It was more of a, we're up, let's coast. Like I said, playbook page 1, stick back, soft zone defense, take our time. I think they want to make a statement because there's so many people already doubting Oklahoma. There's a lot of people picking Nebraska to win this game. Mainly because it's an interim coach. And it makes sense. It's an interim coach. There's a chance for an upset. They're going to play their hearts out. Now, most of the reputable people are saying now Oklahoma's going to go out there and beat them, but there's people out there. I've seen some stuff where they're saying, Nebraska can get the upset. We think Nebraska can get the upset. I think Oklahoma's going to go out there and make a statement out of this game and say, yeah, we toyed around with the first two opponents. We know Nebraska's bad. We've got to beat the brakes off of them, and we've got to get 42 to 50 points and walk away. And I think that this is the game they'll try for it.
Nothing would make me happier than being able to sit here in this video with you and tell all the people, hey, this is going to be a nail biter. This is one. Mark your calendars, double circle it, have the buffet ready, have the food ready, because you're not going to want to leave your couch. This is going to be a 4-quarter slugfest. That would make me so happy, because that's what I wanted Nebraska to be this year, not just for Oklahoma, but for every opponent they play. I cannot in good faith and conscience say I think that's going to happen based off of what I've seen from both Oklahoma and Nebraska. That's why I opened this up saying we have two programs in two polar opposite positions in college football right now. One of them is skyrocketing and the other is plummeting.
They're still plummeting. Look at the Georgia Southern game. They gave up to Clay Helton's Georgia Southern team, the guy that everybody at USC tried to fire multiple times and never could. He gave up 642 yards.
Yeah. And that's
it's absurd. To Georgia Southern. No shade to my peoples down there, but you're Nebraska. You shouldn't be giving up over almost 500 yards per game.
To Georgia
Your defense
Southern
should be better than that, if anything.
What happened to the black shirts, man? You remember that?
Yes.
What happened to the black shirts?
The pride's not there yet. It's going to take probably Mickey at least a week, a game under his belt as the head coach to really try to right this ship. I just do not see Oklahoma as it. And like I said, I get why people think that Nebraska has a chance in this one. I get it. Oklahoma's just as new per se, but they're playing way too good against quote unquote inferior talent. And I think this is a situation where it's the exact same thing. All they got to do is execute. Dylan Gabriel's really good at not making a lot of mistakes.
100%.
So that's what's important. As long as they do that, minimize the mistakes, which I think they will, there shouldn't be much work for them.
I completely agree, man. I completely agree. I can't wait for this game. I can't wait for Saturday to be here. Really, as much as I'm looking forward to this game, that Miami Texas A&M game is one that I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be recording it. That way I can instantly rewatch it. And I'm going to be talking about it as soon as I can. But Jay, thank you so much for joining me today. Before I let you out of here, where can the people find your content again?
You can find me on YouTube. Just search for Unfair Sports. You'll see my beautiful face there, as well as wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. Thanks a bunch, Todd, for having me. I love talking sports with you. Love talking college football with you. Excited about this game as well, just because it's the old school rivalry that's kind of being brought back. You know, we're being reminded that it existed.
The game of the century, man. Last year. That's why last year was such a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. It brought some of that nostalgia back. I still remember the 2000 game when Andre Woolfolk made that catch. He kicked the ball in the air and basically yanked it. I was thinking about that the other day, and so people were asking, like, what was the thing you remember the most about that rivalry? And that's the one. I was in high school, and I was like, man, that game was amazing. And it was a national championship year. So, yeah, I am in hopes that this game does become something better than expected. But yeah, I'm not even gonna lie to myself or the fans.
Yeah, I've said it 4 times. I'm gonna say it again. I wish, in good conscience, I could tell you this is going to be a great game. I've watched both teams. I just don't know where Nebraska would be able to do it from at the level Oklahoma is playing. Last year, I think we were in a bit of a different conversation. This year, this Oklahoma team is playing much better form, technical football than they were playing at the same point last year. They're not sleepwalking, right? They're not sleepwalking this year. I can't wait to see it. Jay, we're going to have to get you on Monday for the live stream to react to the game and all the college football action from this weekend. But as always, man, thank you so much for being here with me today. Thank you for all of you for watching, for staying, for going on 35 plus minutes of college football talk. We love to do it, and we love for you guys to be here and enjoy it with us. So thank you all, and we'll see you next time. That's it.
See you next week.
See ya.